You say Gumato, I say Gumato, or something like that. Hello out there, I'm the Oldest Nerd, and today we're talking about the Star Trek Lower Decks episode Magato Gumato, which is, even in its title, kind of an Easter egg for people who really know what happened in the original series episode that featured this Magato monster, an ape-like, white ape-like creature with a horn on his head and a spiky backbone. This is something that attacked Kirk and went on a planet, and they have to take them to a native woman that cures him. And it's not a big episode in the original series, but an interesting callback here, just because of the fact that DeForest Kelley, who played McCoy, could not pronounce the scripted name Magato properly, intended to say Gumato, and they went ahead and left it in. Probably because their shooting schedules were on such a tight time budget that they had to just keep going. In fact, in part of it, they also called Tanutu in the script. At any rate, that is kind of the driving force of the series. They're going down to find out why these monsters are on the wrong planet, and find out that it's part of a Ferengi kind of operation. And we're not talking about the Ferengi that you know of from Deep Space Nine, Quark and Rom and all of those, but rather the ones that they originally introduced in The Next Generation, which were supposed to be the new enemies because the Romulans and the Klingons were becoming too boring, I guess. The Klingons already were part of the Federation. The Romulans were not really the kind of enemies, and they found that out in the first series, that they really could do much with. And so the Ferengi were supposed to be the new big bads, and never really worked out that way, even with their laser whips or whatever it was that they had. But this does mention these Ferengi. In fact, the characters even mention the episode by name that in the first season of The Next Generation called The Last Outpost. He said these are Last Outpost type of Ferengi. So these are those who are the marauders. These are the ones who are, they have the big ships that are out to make maximum profit. Quark had mentioned in an episode of Deep Space Nine that he had made a mistake. He was trying to comfort one of the other cast members who had had a setback, and Quark says, I had a setback, and he described what it was, and they said, how did you get out of it? And he said, what makes you think I got out of it? I'm tending bar in the middle of nowhere. So this is kind of an interesting thing here with the more capitalist Ferengi than even Quark is. Although we established in last week's episode that Quark was already established as a franchise some 5 years after the time of Deep Space Nine. So, and of course, continued on in a continued franchise even in Picard's time. So that's a little sidebar for you right there. In this episode, though, they show some other aliens we haven't seen anywhere else but in their original appearances. Denobulan, for instance, was encountered in this episode. We've only seen him previously in Enterprise. Then a new game. We've seen various games either played or mentioned in Star Trek episodes. Of course, three-dimensional chess was in the second pilot. The Parisi Squares was never shown but mentioned in a number of times in The Next Generation. And here we have a game that is played by Rutherford and Boimler, which is a game about compromise. They play until both of them are unhappy, and then you've reached compromise. And that's an interesting idea that they pull into the plot of the story. We have our two more reticent ensigns, that being Rutherford and Boimler, paired together in the same kind of way that they paired together Mariner and Tendi, rarely put together, and this time they didn't make any big notice of it, but with Rutherford and Boimler, they were able to save the day by putting together a weapon that looked very much like this bamboo gun that Kirk did in the original series episode Arena, where he makes gunpowder, puts it in a bamboo thing, and shoots a Gorn with it. And another one of those kind of things where, otherwise high-tech things are not necessarily what saves the day in Star Trek. But interesting here that they come with that bamboo gun, and you may not have noticed what it actually was. At any rate, an interesting story that takes its Easter eggs and uses it just in a ability to bring in aliens that we've seen before, and also in the originality of inventing a new game and actually solving a problem with Starfleet ideology, or Federation ideology, if you wish. And in doing so, that's an unusual thing in Trek. Usually things are not settled in a diplomatic fashion as they would like you to believe, but it usually involves some kind of violence. In this case, it really didn't. And so it makes it an interesting episode, something that you'd probably have to know a lot about previous Star Trek series in order to fully appreciate. But we think this is a pretty good one, and so we recommend it to you. We continue to cover the lower decks. We will be covering Prodigy when it starts out. We already saw the opening montage. We'll provide a link to it in the comments below in case you have not seen it. And then there's the idea that Janeway is going to come back. We think Chakotay might as well in holographic form. And we have a whole new ship that we've seen, which looks somewhat like Voyager, although its nacelles, instead of angling to go to warp, straighten out to go to warp. That's kind of an interesting little thing there. So we're looking forward to Prodigy when it starts, and then the live action things that come after that. So the idea is subscribe now, and you know when the next video is coming your way, so you can keep track of what we're keeping track of. I want to mention here, I'd mentioned probably briefly in comments elsewhere that we are going to be moving fairly soon. We're going to be moving into another house across town from where we are, and it is going to cause some disruption in what you usually see here. We are going to be moving things from place to place, and doing so, that will cause us to be in perhaps different locations over the next few videos. But we're keeping up with the stories, and we hope that you'll keep up with us. So please do subscribe and click the bell so you know when we are going to have another video coming your way. And until next time, don't go far.